If you need closed captioning, live transcript is on, so you can select that option. And with that, I'm going to spotlight our guest speaker for tonight, Dr. Ann Wallace.
Wow. Thanks, Meredith. I'm not used to, or don't really, I'm not used to being called Dr. Wallace. So I guess, thank you. As some of you may know, I am a psychologist. I work at Beach Acres Parenting Center, and a lot of our work is really centered around supporting the adults in children's lives to help them thrive. So I'm going to go ahead and this might be a little different than some of the TED Talks that you have. I'm going to do, it'll be a little somewhat interactive. We'll definitely keep it short. But want to share with you some of the tips and tricks that we use in our programs that we share with teachers who we know have been under a ton of stress over the past couple of years. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see if I can. I just want to
get rid of this meeting is being recorded.
Did you get rid of that?
You can click off
there.
of that. You can click off of that. It's just letting you know.
How do you click off of it?
It says got it, and you have to click it or okay. We're all learning.
We are all learning. Absolutely. So, okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about coping in the age of COVID. And like I said, the character effect is it's our universal social emotional school-based program where we work closely with teachers to help kids thrive in and out of schools. So like I said, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tips and tricks that we share with teachers. Let's first go ahead and, whoops, there we go. Just talk a little bit about the impact of the pandemic. So there are a bunch of stats on the screen. I'm not going to go over all of these, but I'm sure that you all know firsthand or know people who have just really experienced a hard time in the past several years. COVID has had a huge impact on all of us in many ways. And quite frankly, it hasn't been just COVID. There's been national unrest, insurrection, war, inflation now. So, this has been a really rough couple of years and all of us are feeling it. And so one of the things that we talk with teachers about that I want to share with you is that, there are easy things that you can do, easy ways that you can relieve the stress in your body. It doesn't take the stress away. It doesn't mitigate or mean that you won't feel stress. But what I can tell you is that when you do these easy strategies, your body will thank you, and your mind and your emotions will thank you. So I just want to start with this quote here. As you can see, I love this quote. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including yourself. It's a playful quote. It's kind of fun. It's also just really, really true. If we just step back and unplug for a few minutes, again, our minds, our bodies really make it really, really feel the impact of that unplugging. And I want to say, as we move into it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this kind of 4-step process that there we go. Oh, shoot. You know what I did? I think I started, hold on, guys. I apologize. I need to stop this because I think I'm on the wrong deck. I made a shorter deck and I think this is the one. Yep. That's a little bit longer. Let me just double check. Nope, this is the right one. Okay, I apologize. Let me go ahead and get started again. Back to Zoom. Let me share my screen. Yep. Okay, here we go. And back to, okay, there we go. So sometimes you just need to unplug, and it's really about, it's not watching TV. It's not scrolling on your phone. It's not doing these kind of regular everyday activities. It's intentional. And it's really making, stepping out of your kind of regular world for this pause. Now, if you like cats, you can call it purr. You don't have to call it purr if you don't like cats, but it's really this 4-step process of really first you pause. Second is just taking a moment to focus on you, how you are in the present moment, just noticing your body, your thoughts, and your feelings. The third step, as you can see here, is to reset, or just kind of ground yourself intentionally in whatever way you need. And these are some of the easy strategies that we're going to talk about. And then finally reconnect. So plug back into the world. So let's talk a little bit about those. So first, I just want to mention, when we think about physically, what happens to us when we're under physical stress? You can see here, again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but stress does have physical impacts on our body, and chronic stress can lead to chronic problems. So when you think about unplugging, when you think about stepping back, a great strategy that you can use is to just ground yourself physically. And there's some easy meditations or different types of meditation activities that you can use to do that. So we're actually going to do one. We are going to do, it's called a grounding meditation. If you want, you can stand, because we're going to ground with our feet. If you would prefer, you can sit, but just take a moment and just slow down and unplug. Become aware of your feet and their contact with the ground. Note how your weight is distributed. Is it shifted to the outside or the inside of your feet, your toes or heels? Adjust your position and distribute your weight in the center of your foot, just in front of your heel. And as you continue to notice your feet, just rock them back and forth a couple times, heel to toe, and then align your weight in the very center of your feet, just in front of your heel, and feel it sinking into the ground. With your feet firmly grounded, let's take 3 deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, sending your energy downward and into the earth with each exhale. So in through the nose, out through the mouth, energy to the earth. In through the nose, out through the mouth, energy into the earth. In through the nose and out through the mouth, energy into the earth. Feel the weight of your body, your feet on the ground, solid and steady, supported by the earth. As long as you need, just continue to breathe and relax, continuing to direct your attention to your feet. So this was a grounding meditation, as I mentioned, and there are multiple grounding meditations out there. I would love, after the talk is over, to know whether you feel any different now than you did a few minutes ago. For many people, it's these grounding meditations that help us, all those parts of our physiology, our body that get revved up and charged up, it brings us back down, it centers us, it helps us calm. So that's an easy physical practice. There are many other ones out there. Let's then talk about emotions. So stress also impacts our emotions, obviously, and in all kinds of ways, whether it's becoming more irritable, more anxious, moodier. And again, there are chronic impacts that can result from stress and the emotional impact it can have on us. A great way and an easy way to combat the emotional impacts of stress are to practice self-compassion. And self-compassion is really these 3 things that you see here. It includes self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. So really, self-kindness, sometimes a lot of times we're harder on ourselves than we are on other people. So treating ourselves as we would others, knowing that all of us suffer at times, and we all need compassion, and then mindfulness, being in a place of non-judgment and non-critique for ourselves, and just being in the moment. So again, let's just practice for a moment a little bit of self-compassion. And just think for a moment, how would you treat a friend? So think about a time recently when you felt badly about yourself or were struggling for a bit, and just reflect. I'm going to give you a minute of silence. Just reflect on your internal self-talk. What did you tell yourself when you were struggling? Now take a minute to either think, or if you have a piece of paper, awesome, write down. If a friend were in that same position and were experiencing what you were experiencing, what would you have said to them? And then finally, did you notice anything different between what you shared, or what you said to yourself, and what you would have told a friend? For many of us, we do. For many of us, we are much more critical of ourselves than we are of others. So taking that time to unplug and use self-compassion and treat ourselves as we would a friend makes a huge difference. And then the last thing I want to talk about is really grounding yourself mentally, and really focusing on, and so when we think about the mental impact, so we get more distractible, we may think more negatively, our thoughts may race, make us have difficulty sleeping, can have forgetfulness, again, all kinds of potential impacts mentally for stress, and that chronic stress, again, can have significant impacts. So a couple of easy tips on what you can control when you think about how to handle things mentally. First, own your response. So, while you might not be able to control the problem, you can control how you react to it. So turning your attention to yourself and really taking a step back and thinking through what response will serve me best. A second thing you can do is really changing your perspective. So it's hard to change how we feel a lot of times. It's easier to shift perspective and change the meaning that we attach to things. So much of the anger or the sadness that we experience can be related to unmet expectations. So when you think about when something changes and how you respond, how could your priorities shift? How could your expectations shift to best serve you and everyone around you? And then finally, where do you want to channel your energy? Stress does get a bad rap, and many times for good reason, because it is hard, but it's also energizing, and it challenges you and can help you grow. One of the things that, I noted at the very beginning of the talk, a lot of stressors that people were experiencing, but one of the things that also was true in this survey that was done was that 71% of people said they were better at prioritizing and more focused on their priorities as a result of COVID. So stress can also help you figure out what's important to you and where you want to put your energy. So thinking about channeling your energy as well can be super helpful when we think about stress. And so then the last thing is just to go back to, is to think about, there we go. Those three things. And Meredith, would you put I have a handout for people that I put into the chat that shares those three strategies, and actually a few more that we didn't have time to go into. So really thinking back to those 4 steps that we talked about: pausing, unplugging, just kind of taking a moment to reset, and then reconnect, are really important. And yet it's an important but easy strategy that you can use to help manage stress. The last thing I want to say is, as I mentioned, there can be chronic impacts as well, and I don't want to mitigate those. So if you are experiencing significant impacts mentally, physically, or emotionally, it is super important to talk with your physician, talk with your doctor, reach out for emotional support to a professional, and get the help that you need. And even while doing that, these tips and tricks that I've shared tonight can be super helpful in continuing to help mitigate the effects of stress on your body and help you cope. So let me just stop there and see what questions people have or comments.
So I muted many of you, so you're going to have to unmute yourself if you want to speak.
One of the things that I was noticing in the mentally one, every one of those is a side effect of chemotherapy, which makes me wonder if the same part of the brain is being affected by stress that's affected by chemotherapy. It's just.
Yeah, Joe, that's a great question. And I do not know enough about chemotherapy to know, but absolutely there are changes in the brain that can occur. There are neurochemical changes that happen when you're stressed that impact brain functioning. Yes.
See, now I'm interested. I want to know.
Now you want
My
to
doctor
know.
will say, what's it matter? It's interesting. Same, exact.
Along those same lines, Joe, when I stood up to do that grounding exercise, and I just had back surgery 2 weeks ago, and it was very difficult for me to focus on my feet because of the pain coming from my lower back. And I think that's kind of what you're referring to when you're talking about, chemotherapy or any stress that's coming
Right.
from an illness or from a surgery. And that does make it tough.
So a two-part. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Linnea.
No, go on, Ann.
No, I was just going to say, I'm impressed that you got up to do the grounding meditation at all 2 weeks out of surgery. That's super impressive. And so really, and it actually speaks to kind of finding the types of activities that work best for you. What we did today were just some examples. There are lots of other great types of, if you can Google grounding meditations and find some great ones. There's a lot of information on self-compassion out there. I'm happy to send more information to anyone who wants it. So yeah, finding the activities that really suit you and your lifestyle is huge. So Linnea, what were you going to say?
Just another question in a different direction. So this is a two-part question. First of all, I've heard that because of COVID, people have been so isolated and that we've sort of forgotten how to socialize and get out of being hermits. And so trust is a greater issue now than it used to be pre-COVID. So first, is that true? But then secondly, and related, if you're talking to somebody who's really stressed out, do you have to advise them to get into, I'm not going to say the mood, but like to change their perspectives, to channel their energy? Do you have to help them get prepared to receive you?
So I think the best thing you can do for someone who is stressed is to listen. I think the best thing you can do, I think that we all have people in our lives who tell us what to do. And that's usually not what's most helpful when you're really stressed. And so just being a safe, trusting partner, a person walking by their side is frequently, and if they ask for guidance, then sharing any guidance that, yes, seems appropriate.
And that's true of kids too, or especially
absolutely. Especially teenagers. Yeah, you don't want to tell them anything. But yeah, that is absolutely true for kids as well. And maybe sometimes even more, kids don't have many people who just sit and listen to them. Kids are being told what to do every day, all the time. So.
Thank you.
I liked how the exercise was short. So I think it'd be appropriate for school teachers. They don't have much time, but if they have time for a lunch break, maybe they could do the exercise you described and taught us.
We absolutely, and that is one of the things in the program that we have called the Character Effect that I shared the materials from. We have lots of different mindfulness activities geared specifically for kids that are those short, 1 to 3 minutes where a teacher can, and we have some videos and some other kinds of activities that, whether it's, kind of mindful yoga, things that teachers can do with kids just to help when you think about transitions coming in from lunch or, when you need a break, when you've been, trying to focus for too long, right? So absolutely, and that they're hugely helpful for kids, for all of us.
Does Beach Acres have academic classes and education, or is it more socio?
We're
Emotional.
more focused on the social emotional. So we're in schools, both doing prevention work and then also actually, treatment for kids who need additional support in schools.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm just curious if anyone, and feel free to either share in the chat if you feel more comfortable or share verbally. If anyone did notice a difference either during the grounding exercise or notice something different that they would say to themselves or would say to a friend than they did to themselves.
When I'm stressed, I have a lot of things I say to myself, like, you should have done this, you should have been faster, you should have done that 2 weeks ago. And that's not the way I would talk to a friend.
Yeah,
hopefully.
You'd never say that to a friend, right?
Right.
You'd say, you're doing the best you can.
Yeah.
Like it's all gonna work out. You got this, right? I got your back. All of those things. Absolutely.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there's a light at the absolutely. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
So I think with the grounding exercise, I was feeling a little sleepy and a little tired into the day going into it. And afterwards I was like, wow, I have a little more energy. So just in that short period of time, it rejuvenated me.
Thanks, Jelly. Yeah. And it is those little things. I will tell you, last night I was feeling the same way, pretty sleepy and tired. It was a beautiful evening. I'm like, go out and take a walk, and it was a beautiful evening, and just walking around the block and noticing the beautiful flowers and feeling the breeze. I felt so much better when I came back. And, it would have been really easy just to sit in front of the TV. That was what I wanted to do. And yet getting out, and that's what I say about, that it just being intentional about unplugging is huge.
Actually, I was talking to 2 nurses from Good Sam, you need to know that, who would take their breaks on the top level of the parking garage because it had such a beautiful view there.
That sounds amazing. What a great idea, right? Yeah. What smart nurses.
And do you think there's more stress going on now than ordinarily? And like when COVID finally subsides, and when we hope the war also subsides and the economy gets better, when those stressors are gone, they're big ones. I mean, there are all kinds of stressors, but those are big ones.
Big ones.
Do you think people will feel less stress or have learned how to handle stress during this period and use it going forward, use the management of it going forward?
I wish I had a crystal ball. My guess is that it's probably a combination. I can tell you that the data that on that first slide that we didn't go into because, you all didn't want me to hear me recite a bunch of numbers, was taken from, there's an American Psychological Association poll on stress they do every year. And the numbers are higher than they've been in a decade. So people are really feeling stressed. Absolutely. It is, it's not, Yeah, it's not, it is absolutely the case that people are feeling a lot more stressed. I think with that, then there are things that maybe when you're not stressed feel easier, feel really hard. It's kind of like you're at that tipping point where I can't do one more thing, right? So I do think that it will take us a while to kind of reset and get back to a place that feels more grounded. But having said that, I do think there is also there's a lot of research out there on resilience and how people bounce back from hard times. It is going to depend on what kind of support you have, because one of the things we know about resilience is, you're going to bounce back more easily if you have someone in your corner. So if people who don't have that are going to have a harder time. And then I think the question is, just how prolonged will it be? Because the longer we experience these kind of major stressors, the harder it will be. So I have a lot of hope, and I believe in the resilience of people, and it's going to take some work. Yeah.
I think one of the things that has helped me through this, I was teaching up until September, and my kids, I did teach online. I was stressed, blah. But when I found out that I had lymphoma, I did something proactive that I think really helped me. I knew that I needed to sleep, no matter what, no matter how I felt. So from last September until tonight and tomorrow night and the next night and the next night, I meditate every night before I go to sleep. Every single night. And it really, I believe that being proactive in that way and being able to predict that that's where I would have a horrendous stress if I couldn't sleep. I really think that's made a big difference in my recovery and in my attitude toward this.
Yeah, Joe, you are spot on. Like, what we know about meditation is that it has numerous benefits, both mentally and physically. And especially regular meditators like yourself, it is an amazing way to support and prevent those kind of negative effects. That we know that there are changes in the brain from people when people are regular meditators. We know that they are better able to handle pain. They are better able to, recover more quickly. Physically healthier with shorter recovery time. In addition to all the mental benefits that you see as well. So kudos to you. Because especially in those kind of life-altering circumstances, it's hard to unplug and make sure that you're doing those things for yourself to that support self-care. So yeah, that's fantastic. Really impressive.
I see Fran Turner on this. Fran, can you tell something about the meditation group from church? Do you Zoom? Do you meet in person? When?
Fran, you're muted.
You can put it in the chat, Fran.
There you go.
There. Well, I also, can you see? Oops. That's weird. Meditate, yes, 11:30 on Mondays, if you're interested in joining. Email Lynn Martin and she will give you the way to get there. It is, I read something, but it is a silent meditation. And it is pretty much what you want to do. I do not direct any of it. I read something so that we can kind of center ourselves and sit down and think of and get our minds off of our everyday life. But we sit silently for half an hour. And then, being good Unitarians, we have to talk. And we do not necessarily talk about the meditations. As a matter of fact, 90% of the time, of course, we're on politics or, other churning discussions. But everybody's welcome. For sure, I've been meditating for a long, long time. And yes, certain kinds of meditations do calm you down. Sometimes serious, really serious, intense meditation, you find out some things that perhaps you'd rather not know about yourself. I said to my Zen master one time, this is just like therapy, only I don't have a therapist telling me I'm okay. Because going into your brain is sometimes difficult. But on the whole, I found it to be life-saving.
It occurs to me that there's a whole market for stress in our society, and most people are attracted to stress. I think we run towards it if given the chance. So marketers have taken advantage of that, and you can turn on the TV anytime and watch horrendous news going on 24/7. And something that I've recognized over the past few years is you really have to be very mindful about how much of that stuff you tune into, because it does eat you up. I do appreciate the different stress management tactics, and I do use things like breathing and counting, and it does help. But just being aware of the fact that all this stuff is out there and it's trying to suck you in. It's
Absolutely.
important to be aware of that.
It's important to be aware of it. It makes it all the more important to just be intentional, right? About
Right,
unplugging.
right.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a quick story to share with you, Anne, and anyone else who would like to hear it. But before that, I'm wondering if there are any last minute questions as we wrap up here. No?
I was going to say that the only way to calm my monkey mind, which is monkey all the time, is that I found Tai Chi. And because of having to do the practice of Tai Chi, in order to concentrate on the moves and what I need to do next, I can't let anything else enter my mind. And it's a day of the week that I try not to miss because it's so helpful. You would never think Linda Miltner would do Tai Chi.
Thanks for sharing, Linda. And that's a great example again of lifestyle, right? You have to find what works for you. There's no one thing that works for everyone. So making sure and again, it's about being intentional. I'm guessing Tai Chi probably wasn't the first thing you tried, right? It's seeking it out. Or maybe it was the first thing you tried, but it's seeking out those things that support you and help you unplug.
Thanks for sharing that, Linda. And I wanted to share with you that many years ago, during an owl overnight, you came in as a chaperone during the second shift, and we had a set of girls who would not settle down to sleep. And I remember this so clearly. You came in and you said, I'm going to practice big breaths. Like you told me this to the side, and you said, I'm going to sit in there and do deep breaths, because if I regulate myself, they will regulate themselves to me. And that is a lesson I have carried since that day. And I've used it with both of my girls. And I use it whenever I feel like, oh, this person that I'm with might need to also do some big breaths. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Meredith. That it warms my heart that that you have carried that with you. And that is, I love that. Going back to Linnea question earlier, like how can you guide someone? Just breathing, right? Supporting them in breathing is it's an amazing and a powerful thing to do. So, so thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
This was great information, Ann, and really good tips. Simple, but effective.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I apologize, you all. I'm using my home computer, and I clearly should have been using my work computer for this because I can't figure out the technology. I have one screen instead of two, so I was a little bumbling through it. But so thank you for putting up with me as well.
You feel stress?
The grounding meditation helped.
It's all really helpful. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah, this is good.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ann.
everybody. Reach out anytime if you want additional information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks.
Have a good weekend, people.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Ann.
you.
Bye.